Hey guys, and welcome to my first Overwatch tier list on the channel. Today I'm going to be going over the recent mid-season patch, including key changes and tier placement shifts for meta heroes that were targeted on it, notably Torbjorn, the really nice Genji deflect perk that he got, and the crucial absence of any meaningful Ana nerfs outside of buffing her competition in Juno, right? So we'll start in the lower tiers, and then we're going to work our way up to the best heroes in the game currently, and yeah. Without anything else, so let's just get right into it. So I've got the tier list right here. From weak to meta, we're gonna go from the weak first, and then go up as we go. I say the only hero that I'm really unsure about is Torb. As I mentioned, Torb was nerfed, mainly his turret, and to compensate, they buffed his hammer sustain on the turret. I don't think that's really that good. So I don't know. He could be a lot better. He could be a lot worse. I'm going to assume that he's going to be a little bit pushed down, because a lot of the value that came from the character is just how unsusceptible he was to getting his turret broken. You could put it in anywhere, kind of like on an Illari pylon, and it just made it really difficult for flanker characters to get any value against the character. I mean, Genji and Echo could poke it out, but against Tracer stuff, Torb was really good. It just completely denying Tracer. But now that he's a little bit pushed down, I think, I'm not entirely sure how good or bad he will be, so he's the one question mark there. We need to see it play out for a little bit longer to see whether or not he's still viable. Because when it gets to a point where teams are picking Torb in pro play, that's how you know the character is good, right? It's a silly character like Torb being that good. But again, I don't really know. One character that I do know a lot about is Lifeweaver, and Lifeweaver is trash. So despite receiving a nice minor perk in his cleansing pool with the advent of perks, and he has very high single target sustained healing, I think Lifeweaver continues to be possibly the worst hero in the game in my opinion, simply due to his lack of offensive utility as a support. So Ana has nade, right? Juno has ring, solid damage, and one of the best multi-purpose ults right now. And Kiri has angle control for kunai and a good DPS spacing ult in Kitsune. But Lifeweaver doesn't really have any of that, and I think the survivability trade-off isn't even that good, since most of his support counterparts have some type of escape CD to survive incoming dives, and outside of Petal, you're really not that good at prolonging your own life, just kind of denying the enemy team on value on your team, which other heroes I think can do better. I don't think Lifeweaver will, the way that his kit is designed, will ever be a strong hero unless they giga buff him or rework him. I really don't see it. Next to him we have Hanzo. So Hanzo is really weak. I'd say he's yet to recover from the rework that he got in Season 9 when they removed his one-shot. And even though he has it back now, and perks have given him some unique options in Yamagami technique and hacking health packs with Sonic, these are abilities that they seem nice and give him team play dynamics and coordinated, but it ends up not really mattering that much when you play infinitely better and more consistent Sojourn. You know, that long medium range hit scan range damage pick, Soj and Ashe are they just completely outclass Hanzo. There isn't much of a reason to really play him anymore over his counterparts, similar to Lifeweaver. He's probably the most power crept character in the game. So I hope they look to address some of his earlier nerfs they gave him, before the one-shot fiasco. His projectile size, I think, needs to go up, and the ability to keep your arrows while wall climbing. It's I don't know, this character, he's just so shit. He's so bad. Junk, I think, he's not that particularly of a viable pick because of his lack of consistent range damage outside of spamming down main. And he can sort of hold off angles and have aerial mobility with his concussive blast, but it's just really gimmicky. A lot of the meta DPS picks he struggles with in the 1v1 outside of maps where you can abuse the geometry, difficult to kill boxes for the enemy team to get through. Genji, Echo, even characters you can one-shot like Tracer, they're really annoying for you to go up against the higher up you go. And a lot of characters have mitigation abilities like Baptiste and Suzu and all that shit. So sometimes your one-shot combo, which is a lot of the crux of the character's value in short range, it just doesn't really see the light of day, you know? And you can definitely cheese some wins in the lower ranks, but against players with good movement, you're not really doing that much, so I think he's just quite weak in general. For Hog, I say Hog is the first character in the C tier. So at the bottom of C tier we have Hog. I don't think he's particularly viable either, but unlike the characters in D tier, there are some maps where he's actually really strong on. So Oasis City Center or some pokier long-range skin maps like Havana, an early hook can catch a player off guard and get you a sizable advantage in the first few fights of a match, especially if they don't have a shield tank like Sig, right? And while Roadhog is good at creating a lead, he's not really that good at maintaining it though. It's other tanks can contest angles a lot better than he can, He's really reliant on close medium range with his left click to do any damage, as well as like he's really contingent on hitting your hook to get uptime. His map geometry, or wherever somebody peeks you or not, is also a big factor. A lot of heroes have ways to play around hook too, like Juno and Lucio speed to overwhelm you, Flyers making it difficult for you to hit it, Genji deflect, etc. And it also doesn't help that he doesn't have any vertical mobility whatsoever. It makes him essentially a throw pick on high ground maps like Gibraltar and Numbani. And you also struggle to get any value against difficult matchups like Mauga, Zarya, Ram, Sojourn building a full rail for you just existing, and Anakiri denying your hook plays while also nading you on cooldown, right? It's like, there's just too much of what's good right now, kind of just shits on Hog. And Hog is like, he suffers from being a selfish character, but is also not good at being selfish, ironically enough, because like you need the stars to align, an entire situational environment for you to thrive in that works on like 5 maps. To me, it's just not worth it. Not worth it at all. He's not horrible, but he's like extremely situational. Sombra outside of EMP, which is a really strong ult. Sombra I think is yet to recover from a rework similar to Hanzo, which basically killed and watered down the character competitively. You can still get use out of her kit, but it's basically a watered down version of the rework Sombra we had previously. You only really use her to harass backline and get hack value on tanks. Cooldown dependent heroes, especially like Wrecking Ball or Doomfist. And even then, you're outclassed by other on-the-ground flankers like Genji and Tracer in this meta. Due to their ability to either 1v1 you better, contest backlines better, or take aggressive 2v2s with Lucio Kiri +1s, or in the case of Genji, like meta-finding ability to deflect Cardiac, right? The brawl directly on top of a Mauga team. She's not really good at that kind of stuff. She's more like very traditional off-angle, like go for backline, Sombra Tracer stuff, right? And she's not terrible, but again, like heavily watered down. Really difficult to get value on outside of the niche scenarios where she has good matchup spreads. It doesn't help that her perks also really suck. Bastion. Bastion was really good last patch. Not like really good, not meta good, but he had some niche use cases last patch because of the infinite healing perk. It made him really annoying and decent into the Mauga stuff for a while, but now that he's been nerfed, it was seemingly flash in the pan. Coupled with his horrible matchups into the meta DPS right now and his over-reliance on turret and aggressive swings with grenade, Bastion isn't the most versatile pick at the moment. You'd be better off playing a Cass, Ashe, or Soj. Hit scans with much punchier, more consistent frontline damage, right? While also having a unique trait like more mobility, pick potential, better ults. However, there's definitely still comps where you can make Bastion work, and in those comps he is quite strong. Considering the majority of those comps require Rein, Sig, Lucio, and Bap, who are simply outclassed, the Brawl Bastion style requires too much coordination and higher level play, let alone the ranked ladder. So Bastion just becomes significantly less of a viable option because of that. For Zen is like good, but Zen sees situational use on sightline maps like Circuit Royale, Blizzard World, Havana, Junkertown, basically sniper maps, right? He has the ability to +1 a flanking DPS with his Harmony Orb and like help them on right side or left side flanks, while also not being physically present. And he's relatively safe on high ground on longer range maps where it's difficult for dive teams to get on him, since his main weakness is just a really big lack of survivability, right? And mobility. Couple that with his ability to contest long range hit scans with his right click, and Zen is really strong in regards to those maps in particular. But the only issue is that that's probably the only use you're going to get out of them. The worst ultimate, lack of survivability and steep mobility trade-off compared to other heroes in his class just isn't worth being able to float around for a couple seconds with his new levitation perk. The supports he's usually paired up with too, in the case of Ana, Baptiste, they found new second supports to ride with and have better options. In the case of Bab, have become arguably obsolete to Juno comps anyways. He's just too glass cannon and risky, and he's low-key being power crept as well. However, he's a couple good buffs away from being a strong character again in my eyes, just depending on the map you're playing with. Long-range maps, oppressive high grounds are good, and short-range diveable maps are really shit. I'd say that rounding off the C tier, or maybe around the same level, is Reaper. Reaper does okay into meta DPS outside of Flyers. He has great direct brawl matchups into Mauga, and boasts high survivability and sustained 1v1 damage, right? But the weakness is literally everything else. So he doesn't have a playstyle versatility compared to any of the good DPS heroes. His angle control isn't fantastic since he neither has a quick form of mobility to reposition, like Tracer or Genji. He also doesn't have the range damage of hit scans of Soj, Cass, etc. And the shotgun trade-off isn't worth it in my eyes, when the best flanker DPS like Tracer can do comparable damage up close, without compromising on neutral, ultimates and the like. If you have Hitscan or Echo to cover your bases, then he's surprisingly strong, but he's one of those worst characters outside of a Junkrat to double flex DPS into, because he just has no poking whatsoever. There's no versatility in the playstyle. Like, you live and die by the ability to close range brawl trade someone. So unless you have a Hitscan already, you're probably better off picking something else that doesn't have to live and die by that playstyle. So starting with the B tier, this is when characters actually get like okay, like they're viable. They just probably powercraft or like the S tier heroes are just better than them, so there's not much of a reason to play them. But they're not like bad. First one is Moira. So starting off the B tier, we got Moira. She's essentially a better version of Lifeweaver right now. Very high AoE sustain healing and very heal bot playstyle, while also boasting high survivability and with her healing orb and fade, right? But many players believe her to be an anti-dive character. And while that has some merit to it, Moira doesn't really provide the crucial DPS style cooldowns that can turn a fight, like punchy cooldowns, Nade, Immo, Suzu, to justify picking her over the top tier supports. She's a very selfish support hero that plays to not lose rather than to win. It just so happens that she can execute on that playstyle pretty well. It's part of the reason you don't see her in high ranks, since players have gotten good enough to be not susceptible to dive, while on characters like Ana, which if you do survive, you get infinitely more value on anyways, especially with the advent of perks. With that said, her Orb DPS passive style healing debuff perk, it does bridge the gap a little bit, but for me it's not enough to justify putting her any higher than this. And if you want to heal bot anyways, just play Juno. Like, you have way better ultimate, way better neutral in the form of your double jump, hover, and speed ring, and you also have the meta blaster perk, so you just do good damage now overall in the Brawl trade. So I just think like Moira a little bit obsolete right now. Not the worst pick, not the best. Next to her, I actually have Mercy. Now, a lot of people put Mercy literally like dumpster trash tier at the bottom, but I actually think she's an off-meta demon right now, in my opinion. I think people are really quick to overlook this character because of her negative perception, but there is a case to be made that she is one of the best niche picks in the game right now because of her flash heal. Heroes that are like good to pocket and ranked, they're really strong. Flyers, Genji, Soj, Ashe, coupled with a lot of these heroes being quite strong to Mauga. The only problem is she rarely, if ever, provides anything to your team outside of the pocket, right? So you're basically playing the hero to 2v5 and hope that your second support and DPS can carry the defensive burden of playing Mercy. But if your pocket is good enough, you can get a ton of value. Her perks definitely increase her viability in my eyes, especially the GA range and flash healing, which can extend the life of a pocketed hero and allow them to play way more aggressively than they could previously, while also providing you with more damage boost uptime as a bonus and quality of life with the GA range. Her lack of team utility again is what's setting her back for me, and ideally you would only be playing her in situations where having a pocket is really OP, like Echo and Ilios Well or Busan downtown. But in that situation, she's really, really, really good in rank setting. Coordinated play is where I really see her falling off of a cliff though, since the aforementioned lack of utility and speed and on and aid really sets you back when being solely reliant on your ability to outplay the opponent with tricky movement. Rarely, if ever, does she have a way of fighting back dive attempts outside of flying up or just valking away. But aside from that, I think she's still like decently niche, but also being playable in situations that are more than any characters below her outside of like maybe Moira. Okay, Orisa. She's like a nothing burger tank, to be honest. Outside of Javelin, you don't provide anything flashy in the frontline department. You have a lot of armor, you can live for a while, maybe, but I don't know. I think she's just outclassed by Ramattra and other Brawl tanks, Hazard, Mauga, etc. Outside of a minor poking advantage in some cases. Not much of a reason to really play her unless she gets numbers changes. She's just like a safe pick. Not much to say about her. Next, Soldier. Soldier's a good middle ground hit scan between Ashe and Cass, where you can fight at close range and you have a little bit of mobility, but you don't fall off of a cliff in terms of damage potential when you have medium longer range like Cass. You don't fall off like that. He struggles in the 1v1 against pretty much every hit scan in my opinion, but his strength lies in his ability to constantly harass and flank with your healing station, and the new reloading perk where you can maximize uptime even while sprinting, which, let's be honest, you're doing a lot of that on this hero to be effective anyways. Considering Ana is really strong and Kiri and Juno also see playtime, comboing Visor with them can see some niche, really niche use cases. Though support DPS comboing is better on others like Soj or Genji, you can still do it and it's quite strong, at least for rank play. He has a good tank shred, and heroes like Mauga or Ramattra kind of have to just eat his spam damage, and Rocket does a good chunk of their health and armor, which is nice for the frontline trade. But aside from that, he's just outclassed by good hit scans. Not to say that he's that bad though. Rein is really, really weird. I wouldn't recommend playing this character at all, even though he's not that bad. I think this hero either needs a Lucio or Juno to function at a higher level, and when you do, he's quite good. It requires a ton of coordination or just like getting lucky to get value on, to be honest. There's a lot of ways you can make him work if you're creative, but the lack of verticality and mobility leaves him in the dust compared to dive tanks like Hazard or like Monkey, D.Va. Even if you want to be a pinning Giga Chat and like run it down, Mauga's charge does that a lot better, and he also has poking with his left click and right click, and gets to pop cardiac on entry, so it's a lot less risky. I think Ryan is like a premier example of power creep, and like since all of the modern tanks can block while shooting, and he still has to choose between do I block or do I do damage, right? And even then, he has a close range weapon, so it forces you to get close and personal. Most characters in the game have mobility, so to close the gap, you have to pin in or feed, and have a Lucio Juno if you're lucky, which maybe happens 40-50% of the time in rank, because most people are stupid and they pick Moira Lifeweaver. Bad matchups really fuck over this character too. Just think he's really close to being good, and like in a brawl meta, you would think that Ryan would be good. It's just he's just outclassed. Like so many of the characters in the lower tiers are just outclassed by characters above them, where it's like it's not even worth playing them. They don't provide enough. I'd say starting in B+, I would put Illari. She's a little bit fringe, but I'll give her the bump up. She's a slow character in a fast Mauga Lucio style meta, like great Genji meta. Not really a recipe for success outside of slower, more D.Va based maps. You can play Illari Bap, like Gibraltar or sniper maps. And speaking of Bap, I would also put him right next to her. I think she just gets kind of like countered by Suzu too much. Like, she doesn't really have that great of a support ult, whereas all the characters above her have a fantastic, like, in the support category, right? All the characters above her have a fantastic support ult, and they have better neutral, and they have better healing. So I don't think it's much of a reason to really play her right now, especially because the maps right now, and also the meta right now, does not favor this more slower pace, like, play for DPS and positioning, like, slow positioning, high ground style maps. Like, it's just Mauga, right? Next door, we got Bap. And Bap, ironically, like, in previous patches, before Juno came out, I would say Bap is like Giga THANOS, like the best support hero to climb with in the game for rank play. But he has a nice spread of being able to sustain while also doing good frontline damage with his hit scan M1. But nowadays, you would much rather have the consistent healing of Juno, but she still also has solid damage with her Meta Blaster perk, while also having speed and a way better ult and window. I just think Bap is a new meta away from being good again, and in ranked he is still good. But he's honestly too susceptible to Mauga Genji hits in coordinated play to see any usage anymore. Like, it's too easy to isolate him as opposed to a Juno. At least Juno has some mobility to survive dives. Bap kind of just prolongs his death with Immo and Shift until he gets isolated by DPS and then dies without his cooldowns anyways. But either way, I still think he's a good pick and really versatile for ranked. Just the higher up you go, the more important it is for you to play Juno, in my opinion. Next we have Widow. Widow, like, not much, pretty self-explanatory. She's just very niche, but very, 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 very good on sniper maps. She, like these two other heroes next to her, are poke heroes in a brawlier meta, which just kind of means that, aside from the maps they're really good on, they end up getting outclassed by the meta heroes at the moment. And especially the Sojourn, I think, kind of, like, there are way more situations where you'd rather play Sojourn. Even on some long-range maps, you would rather play Soj. Mei, let's do Mei and Sim. I think Mei and Sim together, they're like the team play divas. They're like the queens of team play. Where's Mei? Here. Mei alongside Sim's team play queen. While super valuable, but only as valuable as your team is willing to coordinate and follow up with. A really smart player can make her work, but even if you play her at a base level, I think she's still decent at poking and can fend off flankers really well for her left click. She's the tankiest DPS and has a solid ult from Brawl Mirrors. On control maps, she's really strong. Blizzard becomes hard to dodge. Throw down a choke, and then cut off the exit with wall, and just laugh as the enemy flames you in match for playing the devil. But jokes aside, I think she's super good and slept on. Again, she's just too dependent sometimes on the right environment or map, which isn't that good for rank play. But like this character, she's very safe. She's kind of like an Orisa in the sense, like a DPS version of Orisa in the sense where there's not really a situation where she's really horrible. For Sim, she's more of the same from a team play perspective. I think she's like the silent winner of perks, because she has a 50% longer TP, which is in-fucking-sane, and 4 turrets on a level 2 perk. Like, what are we doing? The only reason people don't talk about Sim, in my opinion, is because she's barely played. She's a low pick rate. So few players know how to get value on her, but she's essentially the same Sim that was a fringe A-tier pick last season, but buffed by perks, like, significantly. So to me, though, she's more of a team play menace, since coordinated 5-stacks or pro play teams, they can make use out of her new buffs and TP, and set up rotation plays with stuff like Juno Ring, right? And Mauga Hit. Either way, similar to Mei, she's a team play, set play hero, but also provides a ton of utility, even for players that aren't in a competitive stack. So even in rank play, she's not that bad. I'd say she's also really OP on control maps like Lijiang. You can turret bomb pretty effectively and create a ton of like close range kill boxes with the turrets, and force teams to play in that space or give up space, very meaningful space, and respect you. So, like, I don't know. I think Sim is like one of those really underrated characters. She's just kind of, she can poke, she can tank shred, she has good damage, she's a little tanky, she has mobility with the TP, can set up team play setup, like she can kill box with the turrets. Like she's really really good. But she's a game sense hero. You have to be smart. She's not as dumb as people think. She's not as like just the skill floor for Sim is like just literally run around and left click. But I think like this is one of the harder heroes to get value with. But she's also really rewarding if you do. Same thing with Mei. Cass. Cass, we got Mr. Consistency Cass over here. He's just always good. He's not like horrible. He's not fantastic, but it's just good. Not much to say. Consistent hit scan damage. A little worse than the meta options. Provides good punchy anti-flanker and up close damage. Has a little bit of mobility in the shift to survive sticky situations in the form of roll. Unlike a Sojourn though, he's really easy to dive right now. He doesn't really have the long range damage to play farther, safer sightlines, so he's really dependent on your positioning skill and towing the line between aggression and feeding. I actually recommend Capitology. He's a hit scan, or he made a hit scan coaching guide for Cass, like showing off like lip and shit. I definitely recommend that. I'm gonna link that in the video or timestamp that shit because that is a really cool video. You should definitely watch it if you want to learn how to get better at hit scan. I think this character, he's okay. He's good. He's just consistent. He's like whatever. There's no situation where he's particularly bad in, but he does get outclassed by some better heroes. D.Va, similar to Cass, jack of all trades, but for tank. She's like a 7.5 or 8 out of 10 in every category, except maybe poking, which she's quite weak at. Very versatile hero to play in ranked. She's ideal in slower, high ground based maps like Numbani, where she can flip flop between cart, think Dorado, Gibraltar, right? And you have really fast booster cooldowns, so you can very easily reposition between high ground and cart, right? The new rocket perks make fighting in 1v1 a breeze. And overall, I think she's still really strong in the perk environment and is bolstered by her really strong neutral. I just think, that, again, there are heroes that are better than her, but she's still good. Piggybacking off of that, we have the other dive tank in Winston, at least traditional dive tank. Winston has a trade-off in terms of he doesn't have the he lacks punchy front damage like D.Va does in exchange for a better mobility cooldown and leap and team-wide sustain and healing bubble. Monkey's better at very quickly engaging onto a support and setting up dives with your Genji, your flyers, right? Even Sojourn slide on a nade jump. But he struggles into meta tanks like a Mauga unless you're Korean and you can outplay it. Majority of the time, Winston is just like really struggles into S tier tanks. That's the only thing I think is keeping him back. Say also Venture's up here. Venture's a good anti-meta option. She's very strong into good DPS right now, like Genji. It's just she kind of gets shit on by Echo, like Pharah, like flyer stuff, and sometimes hit scan. She's quite tanky. She's a good DPS counter again. She's really annoying to fight. And she thrives in Lucio Juno environments where you can hit as many people with burrow, right click, and shit. The only thing that's holding her back is, again, her susceptibility to flyer heroes. And they also have better neutral overall, like Echo and Pharah. I think they're better as a secondary DPS to play. Zarya. I'm gonna give Zarya like bottom of A. Zarya, she's good with Genji. She's good with every tank right now, or good against every tank rather. And Bubble got buffed with perks, right? So she's good in Lucio Juno stuff too. I think Zarya, I think she's just eating good. Like she's really hard to kill. She's good damage. I think the only thing that I'm worried about her is she's reliant on DPS taking high ground for her. So like on maps where you want to clear people out, you need like a Genji, Venture, Echo to bubble and like take that space, or like even Sojourn sometimes to take that space for you. She's really good in 6v6, but obviously this is a 5v5 base patch. Yeah, I just think she's really strong, but a couple setbacks that are putting her from being S tier, mainly her lack of mobility. But I will say that the right click perk does allow her to contest high ground a little bit easier than before. There are just some maps where you still can't. There are like certain high grounds where it's like kind of big but not that big is all I can get to. But like really big like steep high grounds like Gibraltar, you're still like, I would not recommend playing the Zarya into. For Ashe. Ashe, I think she's the second strongest hit scan in the game behind Soj. She has everything except for really quick repositioning or shield pressure like Soj can. She has AoE damage and dynamite. She has high close range damage if you can land your shots, and also dynamite as well if you save it. She can combo scope shots with M1 for insane burst damage, and she's good in most ranges as opposed to Cass, Soldier. I think she provides more consistent traditional hit scan damage compared to Soj at the cost of mobility and some pick potential, because I think the rail is like overall better depending on the composition. Still, I think there's some maps where Ashe can be a better pick than Soj. I really like her on maps like Gibraltar, 66, or Numbani. The slide doesn't get as much use cases as it would on other maps because it can't get to high units consistently. So you'd rather just plant your feet on Ashe and shoot, right? Any maps where you can plant your feet and shoot, she's really, really, really good. And also, like, she's good with pocket, she's good with Bap window, like she's good with Zen, Discord, like she's very versatile. You can play her into practically anything. Only thing I'm worried about is like sometimes if you're caught out with your no dynamite, you've already used your dino for poking, and like a flex DPS character, a flanker DPS character comes onto you, it can be really difficult. But as long as you like save your CDs properly and like use your dynamite sparingly, then she's a very strong pick. Echo is weird. She's a really strong pick for her versatility in Amalgamir with copy. But I think a lot of the main reason why you play her right now is because she just completely farms Pharah Genji comp. Like, both of them are top 3 DPS at the moment, in my opinion. And aside from that, like, you trade the Pharah's consistent upfront damage. I think she has better neutral than you. But in exchange, you shit on her in the 1v1, and you shit on Genji in the 1v1. In my eyes, that makes her a little worse than Pharah overall. But in situations where Pharah is played, it's generally better to swap to the Echo than to mirror the Pharah. Like 4 out of 10 times you want to play a flyer, she is like god, but 6 out of 10 times the Pharah is more consistent but not as high peaks. So I put the Echo a little bit lower. She's like, when she's doing really well, she's really, really good. When she's doing really bad, you would much rather a Pharah. I think she has a little bit more mobility, in like horizontal mobility to deal with hit scan characters. Like Pharah doesn't lose to her counters as hard as the Echo does, and also I think is just overall better into Mauga. But Echo is still great into Mauga, and Echo is still great into Pharah Genji, so she's like a little bit worse, but she's still very strong. I think she's definitely slept on. You see a lot of Korean teams playing the Echo. Lucio is kind of a speed buff for Mauga right now. You're basically playing him as a slightly worse version of Juno. She has arguably a better ult and better neutral, but Lucio compensates by having speed on all the time. And Juno is really dependent on swings and having a cooldown up. Lucio's got speed all the time, right? So he's a better duelist than Juno. He has better +1 potential by pocketing your DPS on an angle like Genji or Soj than a Juno. He still has a great ult, great survivability, and he's versatile in most comps. He's kind of like, he's just good. Kiri I put right next to him. Kiri you're going to be playing as a substitute for Juno or Ana. If you would rather value the TP and mobility and wall climb, and also Suzu. He's good in the Lucio comp. You can let the Lucio +1 on an angle or speed your tank in. And he provides a lot more healing than him, plus Suzu. But I think Juno Brig and Juno Ana stuff, like even Lucio Juno or Lucio Ana too, they're seeing more prevalence at the moment. They're a more consistent backline duo, and Kiri overall is just like, she's consistently good into most situations, but at higher levels of play, there's on paper better stuff to play right now. But you can't go wrong with her. She's always good. Good angle control, good matchups into good DPS and supports. And I think Suzu is one of the strongest cooldowns in the game still. Mitigate stuff like Nade, Mauga Stomp. It's still value, but I think there's a little bit better that you can play right now. She's still very good. Tracer. Consistently great hero. Like, consistently 8 out of 10 hero. The only thing that's keeping her out of S tier is her lack of brawl trade, and also, like, she really can't kill Juno Brig consistently outside of Pulse Bomb. So, you see her more of a way to counter flyers in Tracer, or in the Tracer mirror. Tracer is a good matchup into Genji and flyers if you have like a hit scan or double Echo, or Echo double flex. If the enemy team isn't playing Brig or Kiri, this also opens you up to have way more neutral value and higher likelihood of hitting meaningful pulse bombs and backline value. In a way, if you're good at Tracer, a lot of her value comes indirectly in the form of a distraction, or by forcing them to swap to a matchup that's harder for you, which means they don't get to play what they want. But I think just Genji's ability to take more aggressive, punchier off angles onto Mauga really is like a really hot commodity in the new metagame. I just think like Tracer, she's really good, but it's not her meta type thing. She's only good as like a specific counter pick. Sig. I think Sig is really slept on. He's strong to Mauga. He's just kind of a slow character in a really fast-paced meta, and that's part of the reason why he's not that good. He's like not super good. He's pretty survivable in the Mauga again. He has block, passive shield gen. Or not block, rather, the shield. He's got the shift. A lot of survivability cooldowns against the Mauga. He can contest angles well. He has CC with his rock. Levitation perk, now you have easier time on high ground maps. It's not fantastic, but like I'd rather a little bit of mobility rather than no mobility outside of his ult. He's really good, but again, slow hero in a fast meta, so unless you have Lucio or Juno, and like you have to build a comp around you to rotate, he is quite squishy. He's fairly susceptible to Mauga hit, to monkey hit, etc. Genji like off-angling him. Because of the nature of rank being a bit slower paced, especially in lower ranks, you can definitely greed Sig. You won't be punished for your positioning nearly as often as you would the higher up you go. So as long as your positioning isn't egregiously bad, you can get a lot of value on Sig. Queen, I think she's just worse brawl tank than Mauga, but like she's still very good. Queen would be the best brawl tank if not for Mauga. I think great buffs to survivability with all the weird interactions with their new perk healing on the Carnage. Ult gets a ton of value into current support metagame too, since Kiri's a little bit more like off the radar. She's not played as often in favor of Juno Brig and Juno Ana. So if there's no Suzu for your ultimate, then it's a lot more difficult for the enemy team to counter it, because then they have to play the Lucio. Because like think about it, if you don't play the Lucio and you don't have like immediate healing that like goes through anti, you're Juno raying or you're Brig rallying into it, and that doesn't really do that much. Like Brig rally like gives you armor, and then Juno ray gives you damage but no healing. It's really risky to pop ults into it. So like in terms of ult economy, she's doing really well right now because you don't see Kiri as much. And if you play Queen and you force the enemy team to go Kiri because you're on Queen, that's still value because you're getting them off of an S tier pick. And you're also probably forcing them off of the Juno or forcing them off of Brig, which means there's a chance you're forcing them off of Mauga, which means you're forcing a mirror, or they're playing like Ramattra, right? Which is also good for you. I'd say the only problem with her is again Mauga, though Queen is very lucky in that Genji has really good synergy, and Soj has really good synergy, and Pharah has really good synergy, and all of these characters do well against Mauga. Like Genji can deflect for you to kind of like extend your brawl traits at frontline. So I think like her weaknesses in being really susceptible to spam damage of pre-fight and being like really squishy when she's not healing is kind of mitigated by the characters that are good right now. But like Queen's one of those sleeper picks. I think she's just really good. And also, like, she has double speed, right? With Lucio, you get double speed. With Juno, you get double speed. So, yeah. Doomfist, he is the good kind of selfish tank. He's definitely the best traditional dive tank. I'd say him and Ball are, like, right next to each other. Doom, he's a little more survivable into the Mauga, thanks to power block and his shields. He also has good matchups into good DPS in sports right now, good into Genji, good into Soj, but he struggles into Tracer, Sombra, and Echo Pharah. So against more niche stuff, you can definitely be counterpicked. Also, his perks are really good. He has the ammo perk, which is good, and the slam perk, which this is a really brawly meta, so there's going to be multiple people that you can build the charge punch off of. Like usually when you're using slam, you're not slamming for like isolation picks, like 1v1s. Like you would like a more divey Doom. You're playing a more brawly like slam in to get cleave damage, like hit multiple people with your slam, which again, the perk is that if you hit 3 people with slam, then you get powered punch, right? And it just like, it creates a nice little gameplay loop with that perk. I really like how Doom plays right now. And he's a lot more survivable than the monkey, but he also has the damage of the D.Va. So I think it's like he gets the best of both worlds right now, where he gets frontline damage and like tank trade, but he also has the high mobility, like he can get to places like a monkey can, and like engage with your Genji Pharah. So I think Doomfist is definitely strong. Next to him we have Ball. The only thing keeping him from S is Ana being ridiculously broken right now, and Groggy perk just completely screws this character over. I also think the lack of frontline does force teams to play in a certain way around it, like on your team. He did see a nice shield buff to the transfer of shield on his teammates with his E. So I would expect a little bit of Ball experimentation, especially by Asian teams in pro play. As for rank though, I think Ball gets a lot of distraction value, and majority of ranks people either don't know the appropriate counterplay, or they continue to play Lifeweaver Moira like idiots and let him run around your backline and toy with them. Like, I think Ball is still good. I think he's fallen off a little bit, but he's still really good. Ram I think is like similar to Queen. He's just a really good brawl tank, but he's not Mauga. He's not as risky to play as the Queen because he has more consistent survivability in neutral. Like he has a lot of armor, he has shield, he has a block, he has his shift for more armor. But he's not as punchy. He doesn't have nearly as aggressive swings. And his punch in this meta I don't think is that good because teams can easily sustain through it. But you're really playing him for that survivability, right? Especially against the Mauga stuff. He's more so like a counter pick. You're playing Ram with like a Mei or a Sim to counter the more Genji, Pharah, Genji, Tracer, Genji, whatever, right? Just like the Genji, basically. The more susceptible to brawlier DPS characters you play the Ram into, which is typically the Mauga stuff. So you innately like counter Mauga, but you have good matchups into the Mauga, which is why the Ramattra sees play. Also, like again, just good with Sim, good on brawlier maps. Plus, he's really tanky, and I think the perks helped him a lot. The Vortex perk is really good. The poking with his neutral is really good. I think rounding out the A tier, not quite S tier, but very, very close, is Pharah. So, all the reasons I mentioned before, good neutral value. She doesn't have the 1v1 potential of Echo or Tracer, but she can fly right over Genjis and Maugas and barrage, shoot them permanently. Because Sojourn is really good, and Sojourn is like the premier DPS pick right now, Sojourn actually isn't that good at shooting Pharah out of the sky. You would much rather be a Cass, Ashe, even like kind of a Widow, Bap, etc., right? Because the Soj doesn't have that consistent hit scan damage, and she's really relying on the rail, you can kind of greed the Pharah pick a lot more than you normally would, unless they swap Echo. The only thing that I think is keeping this character back is if you play Echo, you just completely deny this character value. Like Echo is so strong against the Pharah. And the Genji stuff, which you're usually playing Pharah with. But again, Pharah, like she has good neutral value. She's good in the Mauga cage. Barrage is one of the best ults win conditions with the cage in the game. She's just not good into a hit scan Echo or Echo Tracer. And even though she has ways to play around it better than Echo can, it's still like it's not fantastic. But aside from that, like she's just consistent and good. She's not all encompassing like a Sojourn or Genji where you can play it into any situation right now and it's relatively strong, or like even a Tracer where you can play into any situation it's relatively strong. It's the only thing I think keeping her from S tier. Brig, I'd also give a shout, high A tier. Brig's great for her ability to keep the Ana Juno alive. With Juno getting a recent buff to her boots and Ana getting unchanged despite being hard meta, I think Brig retains her position as one of the key enablers of these strats. She's also bolstering herself with one of the better ults in the game in Rally, and she can take aggressive space quite well with the Genji Mauga stuff. And even in slower comps, she has longer range angles that she can play with her supports or hit scan, and +1 them as a perma shield pocket, effectively making the person she's on unkillable, unless the enemy team decides to match her, obviously. Perks make a big difference for her. I like the new movement speed change that she got on Shield Bash. Burst healing on packs is fucking broken with perks. And the Whipshot Doomfist style like Bash perk is a niche, but surprisingly strong in situations where you can greed for it, especially in low ranks. Okay, Juno. Starting Juno, S tier, we got Juno. Juno is fantastic at everything. She's susceptible to dive a little bit, but if her DPS are good enough, they can peel for her. Alongside her Brig or Ana, and she can take the heat off of her by going opposite side and forcing the backline trade, right? Either way, she has some mobility to escape tricky scenarios, has extremely high healing output, and now she can headshot for big damage with Meta Blaster. One of the best ultimates in the game, and speed on top of it. Yes, and speed. So all this and speed. This character is actually so overloaded, it's insane. I find her quite endearing though, despite how much has been crammed into her kit. It honestly still feels kind of fair. I don't know, she's just a cool design. The only thing I think would put this character down, besides really hard nerfs, is hero bans, honestly. Like, I don't think there's anything that you can really take away from the character itself. I don't see a situation where she's that weak, to be honest. We got Ana. Ana I put, like, I don't know if she's the best character in the game. I'll put her, like, maybe here. Ana, she was already good before perks, but I think it really pushed her over the edge as the best support in the game. Like, holy fuck, 2 nanos. That's enough said. Groggy and 2 nanos. They need to nerf that shit. Like, genuinely, they need to nerf that shit. Soj, not much to explain here. Again, like, perks overloaded this character. You have 150 charge rail. You also have 60 ammo as a perk 1. Those are 2 very, very good minor perks. Personally, I like the 60 ammo more for more uptime. It's a more consistent neutral value. But again, like, this character is like super consistent overall. She has the major perk with the E. I don't find that great, but like there is some versatility. You can use it as a combo with the Pharah perk that also pulls people in, and you can like cleave for a big like neutral value. But I vastly prefer 2 slides. 2 slides is insane against dive mirrors or brawl mirrors. Fucking insane. You can use slide to reposition to angles that are like more favorable for you to shoot in, and you also have slide to escape in case people put the heat on you. Like it's unreal. And overclock is so OP, and it's even more OP because of Juno. Juno Ana, you can nano OC, or you can Juno Ring OC, or Juno Ray OC, or Juno Ray Blade, right? Like you always have 2 support ults to combo with one of your DPS ults. That's why I find her so good, so good. And they buffed her last season to the point where OC and Rail, like they're one-shotting again, right? Very, very good character. Very good character. No reason to play her, to not play her over every hit scan below her except maybe Ashe, right? Hazard, I put him at like maybe the bottom of S. Hazard, the only thing that's holding it back is having to shit match him to Mauga. Aside from that, he's the same Hazard that got nerfed last season, but better with perks because he has the 20% increase thing on his shift. He has a better block now. Like he's just really, really good, and he has good synergy into Juno, Ana, Brig, Pharah, Genji, Soj. They can all hit with him. They have mobility that can like kind of match him. It's just that he kind of struggles against ball stuff, and especially Mauga stuff. Mauga just burns him. And Mauga, not much to explain here. He's just fucking THANOS. Like, GG, fun tier list. I think the meta right now, it's in a good place, and despite the meta centralizing around Mauga, I find Mauga himself to not be that like giga OP as opposed to like Hazard last season, right? And there's still other like off meta stuff. Like if you look at a lot of the tanks here, you have Mauga, Hazard, Ball, Sig, Doom, Queen, and like in the lower area, lower echelon, you have D.Va and Monkey. There's still a lot of tank variety. Like you're not forced to play the Mauga even though we're in a Mauga meta. And it's pretty representative in his win rate. Like Mauga, he's got like a 47% win rate, I think, on overbuff across all ranks. He's actually not that strong in an uncoordinated setting. It's just that in coordinated, like the higher up you go, the more THANOS is like this character, more prevalent this character becomes. Yeah,